Welcome to One Bills Lite, the rocket fuel version of our daily show, One Bills Live, where we've got everything you need in about 30 to 40 minutes. The numbers game will focus on two quarterbacks squaring off, both under the age of 25. Wolf Blitzer tells us why the Bills have been a welcome escape in a trying year, and we ask the question, should we be concerned? Let's get it going.
And it's Steve Tasker who has been all over the field.
Kind of unique. He was kind of a dual-role player for you. Steve!
A balloon.
Steve! A blimp? We're not even in the stratosphere of normalcy here. Welcome to One Bills Lite. Steve Tasker. It's a week that has been filled with a few more nerves in Buffalo than perhaps last week when fans were looking forward to the wild card playoff game. Now, after a tight victory and a red-hot Ravens team coming in, Bills fans, I think, are more hopeful than they might be confident. What's your feeling?
I think that's an accurate assessment. There's some angst about the Baltimore Ravens. They're a really good team, and they're a bad matchup for Buffalo because of their big physical nature in the run game. The one glaring problem that has haunted the Bills from time to time, certainly in the first half of the season, not so much lately, is their run defense. And if you don't have a run defense against this team, you're going to get a 35 or 40 burger hung on you during the game. So the Bills have got to find a way to combat that. I would say they're going to use their offense as well to keep Baltimore at bay, certainly hoping they can, light up the scoreboard themselves. But this is a Baltimore defense that's very good, top 10 defense in all the major categories, number one in some of these categories. But don't lose heart because the Bills have lit up every number one defense they've played. In whatever category you can name, Josh Allen has carved them up and carved them up good. Confident, good defenses are usually that way because they like to play man, and they have the ability to go man up on the outside. You can't do that against the Bills. So if they want to do that, the Bills will take that challenge, and they've shown the ability to win it. So that's where Buffalo Bills fans' hopes lie.
Yeah, and, it seems to be very hard for Baltimore opponents on the whole to get up on them to the point where Baltimore is forced to get out of their running approach on offense. It just seems like teams cannot get up more than 10 points on them, and even the Titans, who in the wild card round took an early 10-0 lead, they quickly watched that evaporate in the span of a quarter, and then once the Ravens were back even, they just do what they do and run the football.
Right.
And I wonder if the Bills are capable of jumping out to a 10 or a 14-point lead somewhere through the course of the game to get the Ravens out of what they normally do and force Lamar Jackson to start throwing the ball around to try to climb back into the game. We haven't really seen many examples of that with Ravens games, so they've been able to do what they do, which is why they, again, for the second straight season, ran for over 3,000 yards. Only team in NFL history to have back-to-back 3,000-yard rushing seasons. But would we love it if they could just get up and pull the Ravens out of what they normally do offensively? That's the ideal scenario. I don't know if it's going to happen.
You've got to play this game like you're the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to pile it on.
Yeah.
If they go down by 10, you got to get up by 17. You've got to make them start to panic and think about, okay, we've got to do something different. If the Ravens' defense doesn't keep Buffalo off the board, then this game is going to go the wrong way for Buffalo. I think there's no question this is a game that centers on the engine that has gotten Buffalo to 14 wins this year, and that is their offense. They've got to score points, and they've got to stay in the game that way. They've got to be efficient. They've got to score touchdowns. They just got to keep piling on and force the Ravens to keep doing it. Now, on the Ravens side of it, if they can keep up with their run game, so for instance, if the Bills lose the toss, get the kickoff, and go down, they scored opening touchdown, the Ravens got to match it because they can do that. They're a team that is efficient. They're in the last 6 games, they're 60% on third downs.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get them off the field. So if they're confident and they can do that, which it looks as though they may be able to, this has a chance of being whoever has the ball last scores and they win the game.
There are some people that believe, even though the Ravens are a rushing offense, that and they have a pretty good defense, that this could be a high-scoring affair. I don't know if I'd put it past you. I mean, I think this could get into the high 20s pretty easily for both teams.
Yeah, I think so too, over the course of 4 quarters, because these are two teams that put pressure on you all the time offensively. Certainly with Lamar Jackson, he's the guy with the ball in his hands all the time, and Josh Allen has proven they can score in a big hurry.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun to see. Now, certainly the defenses in this game are going to have their say. I think it's going to be more about a playmaking type of environment rather than a stifling, we're going to get you off the field 3 and out 3 times a half or 4 times a half. I just don't see that happening for either of these defenses.
And it's this game that brings us to our initial subject matter for this week's edition of the Numbers Game.
All right.
Saturday night's game, Steve, between the Bills and the Ravens features 2 quarterbacks who are both under 25 years old. Lamar Jackson, 24 years and 9 days old on game day, and Josh Allen will be 24 years and 240 days old on game day. So, Steve, as we kick off the Numbers Game, can you name the 3 other divisional playoff matchups in the Super Bowl era that featured opposing quarterbacks under 25 years old?
I will say 1984, Marino and Elway.
That is incorrect. It is not Marino and Elway.
Is Marino one of them?
He is half of the equation.
Marino. Who would be the other guy?
It's not 84.
83, is it?
Nope.
Oh,
Not
okay.
83
Oh,
either.
so it's got-
Well, you know Marino's got to be under 25, so it's got to be early in his career.
Marino and Eason.
It is not Marino and Tony Eason.
That was a good. That was a.
You're
really
right there, though, man.
That was a really good guess. Kosar? Marino and
Correct. 1985. Dan Marino, Bernie Kosar. Miami won that game 24-21. Okay, so you got the one, you got the oldest one on the list.
Kosar. All right.
I will give you a hint and tell you the rest of these are in the 21st century.
Okay.
So there are 2 left.
I just dated my. Thank you for dating me. I remembered 40 years ago before. Wow, 35 years ago.
Super Bowl
I remember.
era.
I remember when
Back in my day.
Let's see. Okay, 2000s. Let's see. That would be.
You got to think of young quarterbacks that got in the playoffs early.
I'm going to say Phillip Rivers. Nah, the church. Okay.
Even the buzzer's helping you today.
Wow, that's particularly brutal.
It's
right
a rough
there.
room. It's a rough room in the
It's a
control
tough
room.
crowd in the control room. They are very impatient. All right, it's not. I will say
There's one that is relatively obvious. You say, okay, that
Tom
makes
Brady, and who would be the other guy? Drew Brees. No, he was in the wrong conference. Yeah, Drew Brees is.
sense. There's one that's pretty hard to get. I don't think many people
Brady's
would
got
get
to
the
be in
second
there,
one.
right? Brady's got to be in there.
He is not in here. No.
Really?
So, yeah. I mean, you can.
I thought he got off to a good.
One is very recent.
All right, Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes.
No, you got half of it.
Lamar Jackson and.
Well, it's not Lamar.
It's not Lamar?
No.
All right, so it's Mahomes.
Because he didn't. Yeah.
It's Mahomes and who was the guy last year? It wasn't Tannehill. It was who was in the playoffs last year?
It was an 80-point game. It was the divisional round.
Lamar.
No, it wasn't Lamar. Because Lamar lost in the first. He lost in the wild card round.
Patrick Mahomes and who they beat?
Well, think of your wild card games last year in the
I'm
AFC.
trying to. I don't know. All right, let me go back and look at the wild card
You'll
games.
remember.
Let me go back and
One's
look at
very familiar. Steve is cheating because now he's looking stuff up. You have no shame.
Let's see. Hold on. 2019. All right, it's got to be. Oh, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes and
Deshaun
Watson.
That's
Kansas
2.
City,
So there's 2
51-31.
more? There's
one left.
This is
and
really going.
You're not
this is really
going
going
to
bad.
get this.
All right.
I will
what
give you the
Give me
year.
What year?
2000.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And I will give you the
2000.
teams. I will give you the teams. We'll see if you can name the quarterbacks. Okay, 2000. Minnesota versus New Orleans. 2000. These are These are 2 quarterback names that don't just roll off the tongue right away.
Breeze and
Breeze wasn't there yet.
Oh.
Breeze wasn't even drafted yet.
wow, this is ancient history. Who is the young quarterback for the? Oh, Brooks.
Aaron Brooks.
Aaron Brooks.
And
For the Vikings, it would have been. I don't know.
Oh, you know.
Do
You
I?
know. Let's think about Dennis Green. It's on the tip of
Big
his tongue.
dude.
Yeah, big dude.
No.
Think he went to Central Florida.
I know. I can't remember his name.
Dante
Culpepper.
There you go. That's the third one.
How about me?
That
getting
was a
Brooks?
tough one.
How about me
I
getting
saw
Aaron
that.
Brooks?
Yeah, that was good. I saw 2000. I was like, oh boy, that's going to be a tough one.
I got
know I
Aaron
wouldn't
Brooks
even
and
get
I
it.
didn't get Dante Culpepper.
Not bad, not bad. So the second part
the
of our
worst.
numbers game deals with the defensive side of the ball, Steve, namely sack streaks in the postseason. Currently, Kansas City defensive end Frank Clark has a postseason sack streak of 5 straight games, which is tied for third all-time for the longest postseason sack streak. Steve, can you, number one, name the 3 players tied with Frank Clark for a 5-game postseason sack streak and the 2 others ahead of him on the list? So there's a total of 5 names here.
Postseason sack streak.
Yes.
Is Bruce on that list?
Bruce is on the list. He's tied with Frank Clark for 5. Did it from 93 to 94.
Reggie on that list?
Reggie White is not on this list.
Richard Seymour. Is he on the list?
Richard Seymour is not on the list. Now, I will tell you that there is, let me see, how many players from your era? There is only one other player from your era on this sack streak, and he did it in 6 straight games.
Jones from Raiders, LA Raiders. What's his name?
Not Jones, whoever you're referring to. So I think there are familiar names here. You would recognize these guys. I don't know if. So I'll give you the time period in which they made these sack streaks. One was from 2002 to 2006 in playoff appearances. The other was from 2002 to 2004.
Andre Tippett.
Not Andre Tippett. This guy played for a team that has not seen the playoffs in a while.
It's
But
what's
ba-
the
back
guy's
during
game
your-
with the Niners and he's a Hall of Famer.
Nope.
No, there's no Hall of Famers on this.
Well, there's Bruce is
Well,
the Hall
Bruce,
of Famer. Bruce is actually the only Hall of Famer on this list.
Really?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yes. Steve's hopes sag. So I will tell
right,
you
how about
this,
this?
okay?
How about this?
I'm going to give you the teams.
Carlos Dunlap,
Not Carlos Dunlap. I'm going to give
J.J.
you
Watt.
Not J.J. Watt. I'm going to give you the teams. You ready?
Okay.
Tampa Bay. So think of one of the best pass rushers for Tampa Bay.
He can't be Warren Sapp. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Not Warren Sapp.
Keith Brooks.
Who was the defensive end with Warren Sapp on that Tampa Bay team?
Okay.
It was Simeon Rice.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
New England is another team.
See, that's why I said
It's not Richard Seymour. So think about maybe their edge rusher back then. You'd know the guy. Played for a while. Currently works for
Ninkovich.
NFL Network.
Ninkovich.
Not Ninkovich. 2002 to 2004 was his sack streak. And then there's
Vrabel.
It is not Vrabel. It's Willie McGinnis.
Oh yeah. See, that's who I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking. I got McGinnis and Tippett.
Now, this is a little bit tougher, but this guy played in the 80s, played in your division for the Jets. 6-game sack streak.
Gastineau.
Yeah, Mark Gastineau, correct. And then the guy with the record right now, 7 straight games
Aaron
in
Donald.
the postseason with a sack. It's not Aaron Donald. It's not even a current player. This guy played from 2008 to 2011 with Pittsburgh.
8 to 11 with Pittsburgh, and he's done.
Well,
right?
this is the period of the sack streak.
Right.
He is not playing anymore.
Kevin Green.
It is not Kevin Green.
Wait.
See, now
It's,
here's the problem.
It's Harrison.
No, it is not.
It's the other guy. Hold on, let me go. It's Pittsburgh.
There's so many dang pass rushers over the years for Pittsburgh, and they make the playoffs so often.
I don't
All
know.
the names kind of run
I know.
together.
It's like,
I'll give you a final hint and give you the initials of this guy's name. LW, which probably doesn't help you at all.
Woodard.
Oh, you're close. It's Lamar Woodley. Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? This has got to be like one of the most cryptic lists. I upped the ante this week and made it
Unbelievable.
the degree of difficulty.
Lamar
was-
Woodley.
Yeah, has the
talk about-
all-time postseason sack streak record in the league. Well, in the Super Bowl era, anyway. I mean, they only started keeping
That's
sack
pretty good,
stats
though. That's a
in
pretty good
82.
record, though, because
7 games in a row.
Yeah,
that's
that's-
hard to do.
Yeah, because that's not only got to be in a team. You gotta be good.
Yeah.
You
But
gotta
if Frank Clark gets a sack this weekend against Cleveland, he will be up to 6 games. He will tie Gastineau for second. And, if the Chiefs move on and,
got a shot at it, yeah.
Yeah. So,
there you
so
go.
good for him. Not bad, though, Steve. That's all right. We upped the degree of difficulty this week. It can't be a cakewalk every week for you.
It hasn't been a cakewalk. When am I going to get the cakewalk week? I demand a cakewalk.
All right.
week.
Well, we'll see what we can do next for the next episode. Good guesses there by Steve. We now move on to our featured guest, a Kenmore native, a UB grad, and giant Bills fan. It's CNN anchor Wolf Blitzer, the self-proclaimed and proud to admitted Bills fan who isn't afraid to tell anyone that inside the Beltway. It is CNN anchor and host of the Situation Room, one Wolf Blitzer, joining us here in hour 3 of the program. Wolf, we appreciate you joining us. Hopefully we are a welcome respite from the political agenda that you are dealing with down there inside the Beltway. Goodness gracious.
It's been intense, I got to tell you guys. I've been a journalist. I've been with CNN. This is my 31st year at CNN, so I've been with CNN for a long, long time. But what we're going through, the coronavirus pandemic this past year has been awful, and it continues. The numbers are even worse now than it was, a few weeks, months. It's getting worse and worse. Let's hope these vaccines really work and that millions and millions of Americans can get vaccinated because we're going to need something. If you look at all the numbers, almost 4,000 Americans died from the virus just yesterday, just in one day. You think about those numbers, we're getting numb to that, but it's so powerful, so dominating. And I know it has an impact on everything, on the economy, on jobs, and on football too. There's going to be an audience. There's going to be some fans at the stadium, but not many, I take it.
About 6,700, and I was going to ask you this, most importantly, do you see, as from your perch inside the Beltway and how close a watch you keep on the pulse of everything, do you see any light at the end of this tunnel?
The only light I see is if we can distribute 200, 250, 300 million doses. Not just one dose, but everybody's going to need 2, the Moderna, the Pfizer vaccines. You need 1 after 3 weeks, then a second dose. You get the other one after 4 weeks. So we're going to we got to get everybody vaccinated. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel. In the meantime, we're all going to be walking around like we all do. We got the mess. And we got to make sure we have social distancing. That's why there's going to be 6,000 fans at the stadium, a stadium that holds, 75,000 people. Right. And it's an awful situation. This past year, I'm a sports fan. I love going to Wizards games in Washington. Not happening. I love football. I love my Washington Nationals baseball team. Can't go to baseball games. You got to get away from news a little bit and have some fun. And sports is so therapeutic and so exciting. So especially if you grew up in Buffalo, which I grew up in, and you love sports, that's the way we were raised.
How big a respite, how welcome a respite has this Bills season been for you to kind of get that escape that you're talking about? Because I think they've probably exceeded everybody's expectations after a 13-3 season.
Yeah, I would have loved to have come up to Buffalo for some games, but obviously that's not happening. It's been great. I've lived with the Bills ever since I was a little boy growing up in Kenmore. I actually started growing up in Buffalo until second grade. Then my parents moved all the way out to Kenmore, 2 blocks up past Kenmore Avenue. And I went from public school 81 in Buffalo to Washington Elementary, then Kenmore Junior High, Kenmore West. But all those years, I was a huge Bills fan, and I remember all those players from those days. You guys are too young to remember, Albert Dubenian and people like that, the Cookie Gilchrist. I remember those guys. I remember when Jack Kemp was the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. And later, when he became a congressman here, I used to go talk to him. We'd go out to dinner once in a while. I would interview him, and the conversations would always turn back to the Bills. It was part of his so important part of his life and such an important part of my life.
What's been your favorite part of this season?
Winning. Winning is great. Look, I lived through 4 seasons in the 90s, early 90s, when the Bills won the championship and went to 4 Super Bowls in a row. And we lost, sadly, 4 Super Bowls in a row. And I watched, all of that. That was it was great to go to a Super Bowl, and I actually went to one of those Super Bowls in Atlanta. And we, unfortunately, it didn't work out for us. The first of the Super Bowls in January 1991, I was CNN's military affairs correspondent at the Pentagon, and the first Gulf War had just started. The air war was underway. I mean, it was a tough situation, and I remember sitting in my little office at the Pentagon, watching what was happening in the war on one TV, but watching the Bills game on the other TV. And unfortunately, we lost that game. But we went on to win the war, which was
well. I'm glad the other screen actually did win. I could just say
yes,
that.
me too.
I know you're not shy about flying the flag. We've been talking to fans today about the nervous energy that they have leading up to a game of this magnitude. The divisional playoff on Saturday night between the Bills and the Ravens. Where are you, Wolf? Because we saw you last week with the Bills T-shirt on, getting some steps in on the treadmill. Is that how you kind of burn off your nervous pregame energy?
I've got a routine. I got a little routine. I exercise in the morning on the treadmill before a big game. Oh, there's a nice picture. And I tweeted it. I Instagrammed it, Facebooked it, the whole 9 yards. I love the Bills, but you got to get a good sweat in the morning to get ready for the game. Ask me, Steve and Chris, ask me what I'm going to be doing this Saturday getting ready for the game.
What are you going to be doing this Saturday getting ready for the game?
Now, say it like this. Say, Wolf, what are you – ask me like as if it was a real question.
Wolf, what are you going to be doing to get ready for the game this Saturday?
That's such a good question. Thank you so much for asking me that question. Actually, believe it or not, I'm going to be working – I'm anchoring our live special Situation Room coverage. This is the weekend before the inauguration, which is next Wednesday. I'm going to be anchoring 4 hours of Situation Room live coverage Saturday from 3 p.m. until 7 p.m. The good news is I'm off at 7 and the game starts an hour later, so I'll be okay for the game. That was the most important consideration I had. But when Ted Turner hired me at CNN, more than 30 years ago, he said, if you take this job, remember, the news comes first. That was his message to me, and I believe that all these years. So, yes, I'll do the news. That'll come first, but then I'll watch the game.
A scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not stressed at all and 10 being maybe not even be able to make it to Saturday. What's your level of angst about this game with the Ravens?
I would say I'm nervous because, as all of us Buffalo Bills fans, we've been there. We know what it's like to win, but we also know what it's like to lose. I'm reluctant to make any predictions. I'm afraid, I'll say something that could have an impact on the game or whatever. We're all very sensitive about that. We don't want to give the Bills a jinx. So I would say I'm about a 7.
Right.
Yeah. And then, Wolf, I'm always curious because we had another Buffalo native, Bill Fichtner, the actor, on a week or so ago, and he's cheering from the West Coast. He's got all his Bills fandom going out there, but he isn't shy about flexing his Bills muscles on set, when he's taping his shows and his sitcoms out there. I'm curious, what is the atmosphere around the CNN set? Like, do people wear their fandom on their sleeves there? And, with the season the Bills have had, I'm wondering if you're flexing your Bills muscles a little bit more this year.
I think everybody here at CNN knows what a Bills fan I am. They have no doubt about it. They know, and I think that's one of the reasons that the big shots at CNN decided, it's going to be a lot of news this weekend. Wolf's going to anchor from 3 to 7, and I think the main reason was he's got to be free in order to watch that Bills game Saturday night. So everybody knows I'm a fanatic Bills fan, always have been, going back to the very beginning. Look, I love Buffalo, and as I always tell everyone, you can take the kid out of Buffalo, but you can't take the Buffalo out of the kid. Buffalo is a great, great city. It's a city that welcomed my parents, who were Holocaust survivors, who came to the United States after World War II, survived the concentration camp, they were young kids, but they were allowed to come to the United States, and they settled in Buffalo, and they had a fabulous life. My dad and my mom loved Buffalo. Everybody in Buffalo was always so wonderful to my family. So it's got a special place in my heart. I love the Bills. I love everybody in Buffalo. And so I'm just so thrilled that we're doing well this season, and I hope we go all the way.
It must be, and I can say this, that I do have some affection for you and affinity, because it's hard to be a pilgrim in an unholy land, and you being in D.C. with the Washington football team fans and the Baltimore Raven fans just around the corner. How is that atmosphere down there with the Ravens coming to Buffalo?
Everybody knows I'm a fanatic, and there are plenty of Ravens fans and plenty of Washington football team fans. We're all excited. I love football. My football career sort of ended when I was a freshman at UB. It even before the season began, it ended. I was not very good, but I loved the game, so I wanted to try out. Didn't necessarily work out, but you know what? I settled for another career in journalism. It's worked out okay.
Yes, it has.
Question for you, Wolf. Where can we expect to find you on CNN's coverage for Inauguration Day next Wednesday? Maybe just give us the 411 on that if you don't mind.
I'll be here in Washington. We have a special location that CNN has developed for me and for John King. We'll be at an area overlooking the U.S. Capitol. It's a beautiful live shot location, so it'll be good. We'll be busy, from early in the morning until after the inauguration and into the evening. It's a tense situation right now in Washington. I've lived here for a long time, ever since I came here for graduate school. And what's so sad is if you walk around and you see all the military personnel, even at a regular street corner, you see troops, armed troops, just standing. 20,000 National Guard troops have already been activated, are here in Washington. Another 10,000 law enforcement. Those numbers are going to go up between now and Wednesday. And it's so depressing when you think about this is the United States of America, and there could be very few people at the inauguration. The mayor doesn't want anybody to be on the Washington Mall. Security is going to be very tense, and it's painful to see what's going on. Yesterday when I was just walking around, I wanted to see what was happening, and I would see these National Guard troops armed, major weapons on regular street corners, just protecting people. I'd say to myself, I covered the war in Iraq. I was in Fallujah. I was in Mosul. I was in Baghdad. You get used to seeing armed U.S. military personnel at corners in a war situation like that, but it's not normal to see it here in the nation's capital, and that was very worrisome.
And my last question, Wolf, is this: Do you expect it to go off without a hitch on Inauguration Day?
I hope and pray it will. I hope everybody learned their lessons from last week when it was an awful scene that we saw unfolding up on Capitol Hill. I know that they've built fences and they've got barricades and they've blocked off tons of streets. I hope it goes smoothly. I hope people have learned their lessons and we get through it peacefully. That's the most important.
All right, Wolf. Well, we thank you for the time. We hope that the Bills can give you another smile this weekend and enjoy the next week heading into Inauguration Week. Keep doing what you're doing. We're watching from back here in Buffalo all the time, so thank you for the time you gave us today.
Give us one more Go Bills before you go.
I'll leave you with the most important words, Go Bills.
Okay, Steve, we close out this edition of the show with our popular Worry Award segment called Should We Be Concerned? I present a scenario to Steve, and he makes an assessment and decides, should we be concerned? So the last time the Bills faced a running quarterback, it was Kyler Murray in Week 10, as you know, Steve. At Arizona, Buffalo surrendered 217 rushing yards in the game, the second highest total this year. And as we know, it was the last time they lost a game. Knowing Lamar Jackson is fresh off a 136-yard rushing day at Tennessee, should we be concerned?
I would say yes. Lamar Jackson was the MVP last year because of this offense that they're running, and they've evolved away a little bit from it, but it's still the lion's share of what they do. If Lamar Jackson doesn't have a good day running the football, the Baltimore Ravens don't win. That's how, and they know that. So they have multiple ways to get him the football. They have multiple ways to use him, not only in the running game, but also to throw it when he needs to, and also, make it look like he's going to run it and then not run it. So that you've got to watch everybody. Their run game is special. It's something that statistically we haven't seen since the 50s. And I think one of the reasons it's been so effective is because teams aren't built for this kind of offense to defend it. You've got to be very big up front, very athletic, and if you're big enough to stone them in the run game, you're not fast enough to catch Lamar.
Right.
That's the issue. Lamar's speed makes this a different animal, and their commitment to letting him carry the football. Most teams don't want their quarterback at risk that much. They have no issues handing Lamar the football 24 times in a game. That's a concern.
The Bills did do a good job in last year's meeting back in Week 14 when the defensive approach was to attack Lamar, not sit back and wait on him, attack him to force him to make a decision, make a move, decide where you're headed. Now, you do run the risk of looking foolish if you're first man to the show there. As we saw, Matt Milano, unfortunately, became like a social media meme because Lamar did fake him out on one particular play. But that approach, on the whole, worked pretty well. And so I wonder how much they employ that again, because if you sit back and wait on Lamar, I think he's going to eat you alive. You have to take the attack mindset, and we heard some of the Bills players express as much this week. When you're facing a dynamic athlete like that, you must attack. You can't just sit back and hope to, necessarily corral him. There will be instances where that's the way to go and, herd him to the sideline or whatever. But at that line of scrimmage, it looks like, at least from last year's evidence, they may want to attack him to get him to back up and then, make a move or make a decision and hopefully make a poor decision.
Right. The crucial element of the entire thing is he's so fast, and you're so hyped up to get a hit on him or to grab him. You sprint to the ball to get him, and you'll see a lot of tacklers run past him.
Yeah.
He'll just sidestep him. You're skidding on your face mask past him, right? I think the key is you got to go up and you got to break down. Now, certainly, if you break down and he breaks down, he'll be able to out-accelerate you away. You're not going to be able to catch him, but you're still in the play. And when you break down, he has to break down to make a move. And every hesitation he has means he's not running full speed, and the pursuit is going to come to you. You've got to use your herd mentality to tackle Lamar because he outruns every single guy on the field. You can't let him sidestep you and then not have to worry about you anymore. And that's what comes when sprinting to Lamar and then breaking down right in front of him so that he can't send you past and forget about you.
2 of the last 3 meetings between the Bills and Ravens have been decided by 7 points or less, including last year's Week 14 game, 24-17, won by Baltimore. Should we be concerned if the game is close again? And I ask this because I think we know if the game is close, Baltimore can continue to do what they do on offense.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with a close game. The Bills' offense is potent enough to be its own problems for them, and it's just as easy to quick strike It's easier to quick strike in the passing game than it is in the running game because once you get past the line of scrimmage, nobody else is going to get the football. With Josh and this offense's ability, I think this offense. One of the reasons teams have not swung the pendulum away from the passing game like they have in Baltimore. First of all, you don't have a guy like Lamar.
Right.
Second of all, the game is structured and administrated and officiated to have an offense like the Bills have. It's built for that. The game is built for it. Lamar and the Ravens have an offense that's unique and different. So in a game that turns into a shootout, the Bills are built for what the game is made for.
Yeah.
And they have to contain an offense that's unique and different inside the game itself. So I think that will work for the Bills at certain times, no question. I think the one thing that does concern me is Baltimore plays very physical on the outside and in the secondary, very physical. And they dare the officials to get involved. And
they're not going to throw a flag on every single
that's
play.
Right. They get tired of throwing flags. They absolutely get tired of it. They won't officiate the way they do. So the Bills receivers got to have a plan for being manhandled, or at least having those guys try to get their hands on them in the secondary.
Only once in 21 such games has Lamar Jackson come back from a deficit of 10 points or more to win. It was last week against the Titans. If the Ravens fall behind by 10 points or more on Saturday night against the Bills, should Ravens fans be concerned? What do we think of that history?
Yeah, I think so, and I'll tell you why. This Bills team lost a game this year on a Hail Mary where they let a team hang around, or they couldn't get away from a team, and they lost on the last play. They gave up. They had to defend onside kicks early in the year because they had big leads and let them whittle away. This is a team that over the last few weeks of the regular season, put teams away, and then stomped them and made sure they stayed away. They won by 29 points in Week 15, 29 again in 16, and 30 in Week 17. If you get down to this team, don't look for them to look up and take a deep breath. They're going to shift gears and try and beat you by 28. They're 30, 32. They're not going to stop because they do not want to get into a point where one play can lose it for them because it's happened.
Good stuff, Steve. That's all the time we have for this episode of One Bills Lite. We remind you that you can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe so you know every time a new episode drops. You can also find us on YouTube where you can watch us as well as listen if you so choose. And remember, when there's not enough time for One Bills Live, there's always enough time for One Bills Lite. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. We'll see you next week, everybody.